explain times when the C train closes and things like that. So
That's frustrating.
that was a really nerdy thing to go on about, but I love talking about
That's
it.
amazing. That's why I was asking. Because I mean, here's the thing. I'm on my side here. Sure, I do my job. I've thought about this often, actually, Halley, and that's this. Here I am as an Uber driver. I think I know how to do my job pretty well now. I've brought tremendous amount of detail and attention to what I'm trying to accomplish in the midst of my work. So I really, oh, thank you. What can you tell?
Like it's the vibe, you know. You got off of your driver's seat to
Yeah.
open the door for me. That made me feel special.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And then it's the asking, oh, like, how are you, or whatever, like, what's your name? And then,
Yeah.
you know, I just hope that people don't take advantage of that kind of thing, or like be rude to you, because that's just, I don't know, it's just so good. People don't tend to do that because it's like going that extra mile.
Sure.
Seems like a waste with some people. They don't like take advantage, like learn who you are.
Yeah.
Or
I really appreciate what you're saying, because this is, I think, yeah, the intention is exactly what you're saying, to make that impact in a good way for the one I'm interacting with. So here I am in a service giving role, but I mean, I can just give you the service bare essentials. I'll just get in, drive point A to point B. That's the job done. But then there's also all these additional elements, I think, that bring value to it. And it's not like you're paying extra for those those extra things that I'm wanting to include. And I mean, for some, it might be the dynamic where they're saying, I'm doing this again for payment because I want you to pay for more service, kind of thing, right? So for me, that would be almost like an adulteration of the intentions at the very heart of it, saying, hey, why not do this because this is how we treat human beings.
Right.
This kind of honor we give to each other, the respectfulness that we engage with. Here's how we say, I want to make a big deal out of this opportunity, whereas we as equals, me getting out and opening your door wasn't to say I'm less than you. It's more my way of saying, hey, as an equal, I want you to know that you're valued in this space that I'm a host of, for example, right? So all this is intentional to be said. And I appreciate you like being aware of that and saying, yeah, that is different. But the other dynamic that I was trying to get to earlier is, as an Uber driver, I don't know what the experience is like as well from the other side. Meaning, you probably have more familiarity with other Uber drivers than I would. Why? Because I don't take Ubers.
Right.
I don't know what the quality is like elsewhere, you know what I'm saying? So most of my riders who get in my vehicle, they have a good contrast. They can say, I've taken, you know, hundreds and hundreds of Ubers, and so I can kind of tell what some do and what some don't do. I don't have access to that. But as best as I can, I try to say, what would I want to do to me to make this valuable for the one I get to interact with, right? And that's why I'm really intrigued with your assessment, saying, here's what goes into good transportation, for example. What does that look like?
Sorry.
I was just saying, here's why I'm interested in what you're saying when it says, here's what goes into good transportation ideas, you know? What does that look like? And so that's why I was interested in your answer there. Yeah.
On that topic, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know how other Uber drivers are like. This is certainly like, it feels like almost like I'm robbing you, because I'm paying you like very little for this amazing experience that I'm having. Because you can't really value these kinds of things when you encounter like people like you. But I don't know. Either way, like even if somebody's not at that point where they're like, okay, let me tailor every aspect of the customer experiences, whatever, right? I just feel like if you're nice and try to get by and all that, like, it's enough for sure. I've never given anything below a 5-star, and some drivers I just tip like the maximum amount I can. You know, that is reasonable, because it's just, I think that Uber has given me some of the most interesting experiences. Really, like the people you get to talk to, sometimes they let you know what they think, and then they ask what you think, and then it's like, wow, I haven't had that kind of thing because of COVID, you know. So it's a great experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking a little further. This vehicle here, it's a larger one than the one I first started off with, which is a smaller, decent, dependable car. Loved it because it was standard, and I missed my standard. Nonetheless, I got this one here, larger size, just so I can accommodate more options, especially with the Uber. They have this feature called the comfort level, which is more expensive. And with what you're paying for the comfort, you have more space for your needs. For example, leather, like just it's a more premium experience, right? And so here you are riding in something that others will pay more for just because they want those parameters, right? So I've often thought about that dynamic thinking. Most of my riders are Uber X only, but they're getting better than what they're paying for that others would want to pay more for. Others have said to me as well, Halley, saying, hey, you could really charge premium for what you do.
You really could.
I probably could. But at the very heart of it, I still struggle with that element that says, at what point do we start putting on the market what it means to be a human being, where we treat one person better than the next one? And so for me, I understand the dynamics in business where you say, here's what you're paying for here, where at a hotel, they'll open the door for you. They'll do all those kind of things because you're paying for it, versus the ones that they won't because you're not paying for it. Now, there's probably those price points that, they'll want to say, here's what it is and what it isn't, and still treat you respectfully. But in my economy, in the way that I think about these things, especially by way of service, I like to pull out all the stops as best as I can, because this is an opportunity to be able to communicate to someone, whether they're accustomed to it or not, that they matter. That it's worthwhile for me to dress up. It's worthwhile for me to grab the door open for them. It's worthwhile for me to do all the extras, if possible, just so that I can get to the destination of, is there a way that we can have that connection, whatever that looks like, even if it's a quiet ride, you're in. And that's worthwhile. That's worthwhile, I think, That's a tough thing to market.
Wow.
That's an idea that probably isn't going to be popular because it doesn't make the bottom line profitably. But I think that's the element that's missing from so much of our existence as a culture and as a society, is that element of saying, when do we stop looking at each other with price figures in our eyes, as opposed to when do we start extending ourselves sacrificially or selflessly to say, hey, I'm willing to lose out on a little bit of income if I can affirm if I can affirm your common humanity with me. That seems compelling for me.
Wow. That is truly inspiring. I don't think I've met someone with the same philosophy about where humans because one of the first things that popped up into my mind while we were having this conversation about people paying so and so is you must get people that say, why would you do this if you don't get anything back from it, right? You're wasting time. This is time you could invest into things that make you more money, things like that.
And I'm interested in that too.
Right, definitely. But to make it completely about that is just, like you said, it's adulterating the whole service. Wow, that's really inspiring.
It just gets more to the heart of it. See, for me, I am looking for ways of saying, how do I make this profitable business-wise? I would like to be able to still, have a business where I'm offering a service. But then there's also a point when I ask, when am I for sale? When am I willing to sort of capitulate on my convictions for the bottom line? At what point am I going to be for sale where someone says, I'm going to offer you so much money to do something that is against your principles? And this is where I find it really helpful for me to really be careful about how do I get to my convictions about what does it mean to be a human being in the midst of community, to connect with others, to serve them, to, even if I wasn't being paid for, right now, if I was in my home, would I still be doing the same thing? At the very heart of it, who are we? At the our consistency in coexisting, really, right? And how can I continue to pursue my business interests while keeping this untouched? For me, this is my oasis, right? This is my philosophy or way of seeing the world, or what could be in the world. And as I engage at that premise or that level, how can I keep consistent along the way so that I don't go bankrupt on what this was all about in the first place? That's a challenge that I've yet to figure out, by the way. But it's worthwhile. I enjoy good challenges in my mind.
That is great.
Yeah.
it's so refreshing to encounter someone with like, I don't know, just a will to live. I tend to be in contact with people that, you know, and I'm not gonna blame them for that. Right?
Sure.
Sometimes you are in a horrible place.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we gotta help each other out. Like, oh, we're all suffering, right? But it's like to meet someone so like level-headed with like, okay, well, this is reality, but this is also what it's all about, and let's try to marry the two. Let's try to compromise. Let's try to, you know, work in this system that might not be the best, right? Like, for example, putting a price tag on everyone's experiences on humanity, but still not forget what humanity's service is all about.
So let me challenge you in another way then. One of the challenges I often get is you're being a little too naive. The world doesn't actually work this way. Why would you disagree or agree with that statement?
Like if someone told me the world doesn't work that way when it comes to, oh yeah, everyone is nice to each other, or if everyone is nice to each other, the world would be better, things like that. It's like, well, what about the people that do bad things, things like that? It's, I don't know. If someone said that to me, I would probably have a whole conversation with them about how, like, why do you think this way, or this is that. But I, at the same time, wouldn't blame them for thinking that way, because people do have their beliefs for a reason, like life experiences, trauma. That it's not my place to judge them, right?
Sure.
But
Appreciate that.
It is definitely my role as someone who has a different perspective to try and learn it. So yes, that's what I would do.
Okay.
But I try not to be too judgy, but I may or may not come off as judgy depending on the person. But that's the